What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Gamer Podcast. I am Antonius the Gamer, joined by my co-host Mikkel Smith. Super SSS Rank was unable to be with us today, but he's definitely with us in spirit. And Tim and I are here back for episode 15, and we're just going to kind of get right into it. Now, Tim, we have a variety of topics to kind of get started with. I think we'll just start off with the big one. Come out the gate swinging. Mortal Kombat 1 officially releases tomorrow. There was an early access release last week, which basically means the game is out. All the cutscenes
Yeah.
were up in like 2 hours. Fatalities everywhere, high definition things everywhere. Now nothing is technically considered a spoiler at this point. We can talk freely. Obviously,
Okay.
we've had a little discussions in the group chat about it. But tell me your thoughts, man. Tell me what do you think about how the story rolled out? What do you think about the finalized roster now that there is no 24th character? How are you feeling about this reboot?
Well, the reboot. It's no MK9. I'll give it that.
Mm-hmm.
MK9 was just a very, very delicate. I won't say delicate. It was a very immaculate piece of gaming history. Like, when Thanos was speaking to Nebula, like perhaps I misjudged you. Like looking back at this last trilogy, Mortal Kombat 9 stands as the highest to me in terms of like the roster, the amount of depth that was into it, and just how the story played out. Like, it was basically it was a revamp of 1, 2, and 3.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jory has always been going back and forth with me about the 3D era and things of that nature. So I just found it so funny that he actually got what he was asking for with this one, but not in a way that he really hoped.
Mm-hmm.
Because yes, looking at the full story, it was like another name MK9 treatment where they took concepts of Deadly Alliance, Deception, and
Mm-hmm.
Armageddon and just smacked it all together. Um, for good and for worse. There are certain parts
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, okay, so where do we go from here? And especially as after like the way the wave of how MK11 was handled, I do foresee another story expansion
Mm-hmm.
because I doubt we're just going to move on. All right, the next installment.
Yeah.
No, because and then even as of now, like especially where fighting games are now, what's NetherRealm's turnover time going to be like with introducing new games?
Mm-hmm.
Like because a lot of people were complaining they felt that they basically dropped MK11 too early,
Right.
and then
Right.
yeah, they saying they were working on this title, but then you could see like, well, what were you actually really working on for the past 4 years? Because there's just certain things that are just kind of left out, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
A lot
But
of
yeah,
story
like
elements that kind of got sprinkled into character intros. You're like, wait, what? Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, yeah, because for example, bro, I still feel like this cameo system was the gimmick that caused a lot of things to get like short-sighted or cut or
Mm-hmm.
like watered down, and I'm not a fan of it. I'm not
Well,
personally.
I don't want to like throw you off from like your summary of how you felt about the story, but I was a little surprised. I wanted to kind of get your thoughts on it. I thought that because they went through all this trouble of having the cameo system, having these cameo exclusive characters, that because NetherRealm was just known for their NPCs, that we would see these cameos in the story mode. And outside of Darius and Serena, no one else really shows up in the game like as like in the active story mode itself. Like Sonya never shows up. Jax, like Cyrax and Sector, they get mentioned, but we never actually see them. And I was like, well, you rendered these character models and did all these. They can counter. I'm not. I get it. You're not gonna make them playable, whatever. But it's just like, why aren't they in the story technically? Like, what do you think about that? Or that was just like, here's another reason why I hate the cameo system.
I mean, I feel like with this story, they kind of just wanted to get rid of, like, I would say some dead weight. You could tell
Mm-hmm.
this roster was really focused about, and I'll say it exactly as it is, fairy tale creatures. Like it was a lot about magic, ninjas, and monsters.
Mm-hmm.
Because to be honest, technically the only real humans that we have is Team Earthrealm, which is
Yeah.
Johnny Cage, Kenshi, Raiden, and Kung Lao.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much it. Like, yeah, the Lin Kuei supernatural ninjas, like supernatural ninjas. So they're not really technically fully human,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just the fact like wow, like yeah, so the like no real Sonya, no real Jax or things of that nature. It's just like yes, like I said, ninjas, monsters, and magical creatures.
Mm-hmm. What would you?
So
Well,
I mean,
go
I
ahead.
I mean,
Go
the
ahead.
story mode was good.
Mm-hmm.
They had some good elements in there. It was very interesting to see Shang Tsung in a more of an alchemist type of way, because he wasn't really the charismatic like many years sorcerer that we always knew,
Mm-hmm.
but like he had different ways of like utilizing different magic and things of that nature. And then you saw Quan Chi, but I was like, oh, Quan Chi is a brother. He's black. But then, of course, during the story mode, there was something that happened to him where it looked like his soul was ripped from his body,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how he became that way. So I was like, was Quan Chi always a revenant? But
They
but
never
he's
explain it.
alive.
Yeah, they never explain it.
Never explain it. So, and it was good. It was good, man. It was good to see certain things fleshed out in a different way. I did like the more heroine focus on Melina. I
Mm-hmm.
did feel like that was a breath. That was a real breath of fresh air.
Mm-hmm.
Like you could tell, like yes, there's still a rivalry between Kitana and her, but it's not this bloodlust
Yeah,
rivalry.
and not it
And
wasn't
then
as much of an inferiority complex of like I'm your twisted clone in this timeline. It's just like I'm.
yeah,
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, because you could tell, like when Liu Kang, when he constructed this new world, he was also like like trying to heal certain people from certain
Mm-hmm.
aspects of their past, like because like look, like how you just said, inferiority complex. Like Melina was the firstborn.
Mm-hmm.
Melina was the firstborn. Katana was the second, and then even the reunion with their father,
Gosh,
Ermac,
we'll get to that in a
Jared
second.
or Jared Omac, Ermac.
We'll
So
get
like
to
it
that
was
in a
good, man.
second.
It was really good, man. It was really
Mm-hmm.
really good. But then it also goes to show you that there are certain characters who are just drawn by fate to be who
Mm-hmm.
they are,
AKA
and no
Bihan.
matter Bihan, General Shao,
Mm-hmm.
Quan Chi, Shang Tsung, it's basically like what they say with Jurassic Park. Life will find a way
Mm-hmm.
to
Okay.
revert them right back to who they always been. So I mean, overall, I give it like a solid 7 out of 10.
Okay. Okay. So even with the official release, your rating from last week or last pod didn't change too much. You gave it a 7. Well, I think you gave it like a 75 out of 100. I guess a 7 out of 10, about the same. I was gonna ask, like, what would you say was your least favorite change in story mode, and like you're like, wow, this was amazing in story mode.
What I didn't like about the story mode was that weird that weird like mystery period of okay, so they fought Bihan, and you see the origin story of Kuai Liang,
Mm-hmm.
but it's kind of like okay, so they're now banished from their clan, but we did not see that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like certain parts. It was just like very weird transitions. Like it's like was it because of budget cuts or because it would have been good. It's like hey we go back to the Linkway compound and here's Cyrex and Sector in their human forms. Oh, but we are loyal to the Grand Master and now him and Smoker are on the run. And that is the formation of the Shira Ryu.
Mm-hmm.
There were just certain things that I kind of just felt like it was key moments that they kind of just left out, and I was very very disappointed about that. Like even in the whole Edenia saga, I was looking forward to like maybe like a Jade cameo because
Mm-hmm.
in some of the fighting dialogue she's known as Countess Jade, so
Mm-hmm.
you could tell she's somebody who she holds a political rank. So it would have been good to see that you know, especially like, the scene where they're at that festival where it's like a celebration and all that other stuff.
Right.
So it would have been cool to just to see her,
Mm-hmm.
just to see her. But no. And then, one of my most favorite parts, I would say it was definitely, which part was that? Um, the big reveal of Titan Shang Tsung. Cause I was like, bro,
Mm,
cause it was really, cause I was like, bro, there's no way Kronika is back. But then when you really look at it, it does make sense because why would Kronika help Shang Tsung, knowing that she know how treacherous he is? So like, why
mm-hmm.
would she put her trust in somebody that way? And then when he said Damashi, I was like, deception. And so he flipped it all around. It was Titan
Yeah.
Shang Tsung all along.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, bro, that makes so much sense, bro, because when Garrus was explaining it, he has the time particle energy the same as you. But then I was like, oh, so they did create split universes
Yeah.
and it just branched off from there. So yeah, man, it was good. It was good. Yeah,
Okay.
that was my first favorite part. Yeah.
Okay. For me, I'd say the story mode. I think some of the same things as you. There was a couple interesting ideas I would have just liked to have been fleshed out. Like I don't think there was any really part up again, except for that last half, which I'll get into into in a second. I think a lot of the things that got established earlier on, I was like, I just wish there was like maybe just a little like an extra chapter here and there, where certain characters, I get their motivation, I get why they're working together. I think all of that was established great, right? Even on the Outworld side of things. Like I understand why Havoc is working with Quan Chi. I understand why Nitara is allied with them as well. I understand why this dynamic has come together. But in terms other outside of just like an initial like yeah, and we're working together because of this, that's it. And it just kind of got weird to me because it's not until you get into the arcade tower endings that you see why these particular characters work together. That Havoc convinced Rain to use his magic to wipe out part of to carry out his rebellion by flooding the city. It's like that would have been dope to include in the story mode, or the fact that the reason why Nataris is trying to align with Outworld is because her people are starving. They've overpopulated and they're all immortal and they don't have enough blood to keep them alive. It's like, man, like this is really good. Like you guys went through all these lenses to craft this story. Like, why is this not in the story mode? Or you find out that like Astra and Reptile are like a couple by the end of the game, and it's just like, when did this happen? Off screen, like everything else, So I think there's just certain parts of it where like I think a lot of it was fine. I didn't have an issue with a lot of the, I guess you could say, retcons and reimaginings. I think a lot of it was fine. Even making Kuai Liang Scorpion, I was like, this is fine. I don't have any issues with any of this. I just wish there was just a little bit more, just a little bit more to each chapter to kind of just flesh out some of these concepts. I really, again, like I didn't really have any issue until we got to, unfortunately, not too long after the plot twist of Shang Tsung being chronicled the whole time, of where it's like, okay, I can get behind these splintering timelines, cool. I can even get behind the idea of there being other Titan characters, where like there's Titan Katanya, Titan this, Titan that. I'm like, okay, that's cool. Like I like that, it wasn't just the classic matchup of good and evil where it's like Liu Kang reign supreme, Shang Tsung reign supreme, and everybody else was kind of just pawns in their game. It's like, man, like that's crazy that Katana became a Titan in this other timeline. But just like that, it's like so much of it happens off screen, right? Where Shang Tsung shows up to break Liu Kang's hourglass and kill him. They're able to push him back. He gets the idea to get his own Titan allies. And then we just have this mishmash battle on the pyramid where there's so much happening in such a short period of time. It's just like, wait, can we elaborate on any of these things for like half a second? Why is there a woman version of Johnny Cage? Why is there a Kung Lao with Raiden powers? Like, can we just take 5 minutes of like, where did this person even come from? Why is this person here? And it's just kind of like, nope, just again, just a cluster of just clash. To your point of what we were talking about before we started the podcast, it would have been dope to see Sub-Zero encounter Noob Saibot, or anybody encounter Noob Saibot in a timeline where they didn't know he existed. Having Tanya come across a variation of herself where, she's still evil in the original timeline. They only really did that with Sindel. So it was just like, there's just certain things where I'm like, again, I still think it was a solid story. Maybe a little disappointed that Onaga only gets referenced by name by the end. But other than that, I thought it was good. I just wish there was just a little bit more detail in certain chapters. That's really it. And I did like the reveal at the end that Havoc is essentially being set up to become a big bad from a different realm. I think that was a really interesting attention to detail as far as them acknowledging that they haven't really done as much with this character in the history of Mortal Kombat, and now he's going to have his own thing, and even seeing Quan Zero and Katanya and all these little mismatched characters from his realm. I was like, wow, that could be really really cool. Is like Creative Fighter coming back in the second reboot installment?
I think so.
I think so too. Honestly, I think so too.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
because you probably because it probably looks like you'll mix like a base of like two people's powers.
Mm-hmm.
Like because I remember there was one fight where I saw it was like a fusion of Baraka and Scorpion.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like that real rush down, but then mid zoner type of character. So I mean, it'll be interesting to really see how what that really brings. Because it looks like this gear system is not going away. So it's like,
No.
well, okay, so I guess this is a staple.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm glad they simplified it though. I'm glad it wasn't as like
yo,
as invasive as
yo,
11.
yo, that no, no. Honestly, the worst was Injustice 2. That was too much.
Mm-hmm.
That was like too much, bro. Like 30 different helmets and 45 different shoes. I was like, all right, all right, all right, all right.
That gives you +1 on sidestep, +2 on jumps. Like, all right, bro, this is not an RPG. It's a fighting game. I just need it to be
Yeah,
cosmetic, please.
that is simply it.
Yeah, I'd say the one story mode high for me is for as weird as I thought how they ended up handling Ermac. I did really like the idea that Ermac was kind of introduced as like this super creation halfway through the story mode that nobody else can defeat, and that's how Kenshi unlocks his powers. I thought that was really cool. Like I thought that the way they set up for him to be reunited with Sento and connect with the ancestors, and then he gets the power to overcome Ermac. I was like, I like this. This is cool. This is a good way to kind of reintroduce an established connection in this game. So there's certain things where, like you said, I think 9 still has it in the Hall of Fame in terms of tying 1, 2, and 3 together. But if we had to do this reboot of like we're literally gonna kind of deviate from the path that we've always done for the past 30 years, I was not mad. There really wasn't like a character reimagination where I was like, this is stupid. I hate this. Why would they do this to this character? Everything was like, no, this felt fine. This felt good. It didn't feel forced. It didn't feel contrived. It was like, this feels like a very natural reimagining of Liu Kang's version of the realms. So moving on from the story mode aspect, how do you feel about the final roster? How do you feel about the gameplay? You've spoken earlier about how you weren't too crazy about the cameo system, but 22 characters, 23 if you pre-ordered, and get Shang Tsung. How you feeling?
The roster is dope. I just felt once again they kind of they were. And I'll say it as bluntly as it is. I did not like the fact that Quan Chi and Ermac play a very significant role in the actual main story mode, but they are under a price tag, and I did
Mm-hmm.
not find that fair. Even Shang Tsung, to a certain extent, is like, so you mean to tell me the three major big bad ish characters are behind a particular paywall? And because because like I said, bro, when you look at that 24 slot, and you see like when you look at concepts like, oh, Deadly Alliance, oh, Shang Tsung is in this corner. I wonder who's in that corner.
Yeah.
Quan Chi.
Yeah.
It's like, so it's kind of, and then so it was just very disappointing for me, bro.
Mm-hmm.
And then like how I said, like look at the DLC rollout for MK11. The first character was Shang Tsung again.
Mm-hmm.
Was Nightwolf. So the first two MK characters, so Quan Chi and Ermac. And then they announced a guest character. It was the first one was
11. Yeah.
Terminator. Terminator. So this one will be Omni Man.
Mm-hmm.
And and after that there was another MK character. It was Sindel. So then so for that next person it could be Takeda. And then after that it's just the last two remaining guest characters. It was Spawn and Joker. And this one it's Peacemaker and of course Homelander.
Yeah,
So that you could tell that they're still following that same format. But it was just like, bro, like that is such a shame that you hyped it up so much. Like you was real doing good promo for this game, but then it's kind of like,
amazing promo.
oh yeah, Raiko and Natara, like yeah, launch trailer
Toss him the
and
launch
just
trailer real quick. Yeah.
toss them in the launch trailer and just have a good day. Have a good day.
Hmm.
Because even with Natara, I could have felt more could have been done with her because, especially like from that comment that you mentioned about Reptile, it would have been interesting to see if she had like a man woman bat type form
Mm.
where like accelerated healing for certain parts or maybe like faster movements and back and forth, and it's like because you're experimenting with shapeshifting, so you have a shapeshifting lizard,
Hmm.
why not a bat?
I don't
and
know.
and do more blood magic or something of that nature, because she shows hints of it, but it's just not really expanded upon.
Yeah, it's like you can see that the template is there. That they didn't go far enough. It's like I get it. They don't want to make her a copy paste of Scarlet. I completely understand that with the whole
That's
Bloodmancer,
different.
but
That's different. Yeah, that's blood
mm,
mancy. Like, but I think blood magic. Like, let's just say, like maybe like it could give her like certain power ups. Like, remember like how in Nightwolf when he summoned the animals, like the bear was more physical strength, and then I think the eagle was like more like agileness or something like
hmm,
that. So maybe something of that nature. Like like I said, you have like past templates, but I just kind of feel like they were too banking too much on the Megan Fox, Jennifer Bodies type of feel, like which I thought
yeah.
was trash.
Which I have to admit when I'm wrong and walk back a take. I was re-listening to the podcast where I was like, I don't think Megan Fox is a bad actor necessarily, and I stand by that. But in my response to that moment, I failed to remember that acting and voice acting are not one and the same. So those clips that are going viral of the way she reads those lines, I'm like, yeah, it was bad. It was bad. I don't know. Would you say that Megan Fox's Natara was worse, or Ronda Rousey's Sonya was worse out of the two?
Megan Fox.
I think so too,
Megan
bro.
Fox.
I think so too. I was like, oh man. I was like, clipped up. This does not look good. This does not look good. As far as gameplay and roster, do you feel like? Because I wonder, since they go so far as introducing them as NPCs, do you feel like we as fans give NRS a harder time because they go through the effort to put these characters in the game as compared to Capcom, who gave us Street Fighter 6 with 18 characters? Do you feel like we just give them a harder time because they actually went through the effort to put them in the game, or what are your thoughts about that?
Um, that's a. I mean, I appreciate the fact that yes, they give us like staple like rosters, and I say staple rosters of in terms of like 20 to 24 characters.
Hmm.
But it's just like it's like yeah, we were almost near that mark, but you kind of just did a cutback. And I kind of feel like, especially like after a significant game like MK9, it was like, why? Why?
Mm,
Why are we playing for like classic characters? Like, yes, MK9 still has some issues because, once again, three major characters were cut.
yeah.
Well, actually four, but then he doesn't really count to like due to like mocap issues. But it was Shao Kahn, Kentaro, and Goro.
Hmm.
The three sub bosses, actually the two bosses and the one big boss of the game are unplayable
Yeah.
and later sold to you as DLC. To this day, Kentaro, we still haven't played him. Like he's been a fatality, he's been a boss, but we just haven't. And then of course, yeah, he got killed off in the comics, and it's just like,
He's getting the Cyrex Sector treatment for whatever reason.
yeah, yeah, he really is, man. And it's just, yeah. I mean, to get back to the question, I just kind of felt like fighting games are sometimes are a very iffy place, man, due to these DLC practices. Like it's like wow, like when is and and that's why I really appreciate Namco when I would say this.
Mm,
They really and then we were giving them a hard time on terms of marketing, like oh they've slowed down a bit, but then, to be honest, maybe they're just focused about refining these characters enough to say, oh we didn't really cut you on the roster, or we
yeah.
didn't try to oversell you on this. Let's give you something that is very, very substantial. Because, like, bro, 30 something characters?
In this day and age,
Yeah,
unheard
and
of.
in this day and age, I would just honestly say thank you. Even look
Mm,
at Fighter Z. Like Fighter Z had a great
initial roster. I agree.
base roster. Even when the concept of like Vegeta Blue and Goku Blue, yeah, they were DLC characters that you had an option to buy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or you could have just got them through different like playable means. And to be honest, that is cool. But it's just like, wow, bro, ugh. Like, bro, he's in the story mode. He's in the story mode.
Multiple times.
Multiple times, bro. And then that just really gives me like MKX flashbacks, bro. Because I was like, because Rain had an awesome new design. You fight Rain in the story, and it's like, oh, Rain's not. Uh,
Not just MKX, because remember MKX had Rain. You also fight Tanya very briefly, and then MK11 again. Cyrax and Sector. You fight them. You fight them in the story, and they're not in the game. But it's just I don't know. To me, because it's like I do. It's always tricky because on one hand, like you said, like I'm glad that they made an effort to make sure that these characters played a part in the story, right? That they weren't just mysteriously out. Like you don't know like oh what is Quan Chi doing? You know exactly what Quan Chi is doing because he's in the story mode. But on the other hand, not for nothing, like we were talking about this in the group chat, it's like this is part of the reason why I didn't want to get it day one anymore. I feel like when we're at this new price point of having to pay $70 before tax for a game, to me, my new normal is like I need to have a game where it's like if I never buy a piece of DLC ever, I should be satisfied with what I'm getting for $70. And when I see three characters that played an integral part not being in the game, it's like I feel like I'm being robbed somehow. I don't know if maybe somebody in the comments will like, no, you're wrong. Like, this is why. Like it just feels like I'm not getting my $70 experience. That's the best way I can describe it.
there's no crypt, and and my heart goes out to the people who bought it on the Switch,
Oh
because,
Lord.
bro, because, but then I was like, so wait, they had to pay the full price, like, so it's not a port, or I was like, but bro, like these graphics are like
It's
I can't even say PS2 graphics, bro.
no.
That's
Yeah.
GameCube graphics, like whoa,
So for those
whoa.
who don't know, the MK1 is being released on the Switch. It is being developed by another company, the company that did MK11 on the Switch. And if you haven't seen any of the gameplay screenshots or clips, it is some of the worst graphics you have ever seen. And granted, obviously the Switch ain't no technical marvel, but my goodness, they didn't even go for like a stylized thing. I'm like, this is granted, like again, it ain't cutting edge, but Super Smash Bros. Ultimate look kind of all right on the Switch. This ain't that. Like they look night and day horrible. And I would not be surprised if there's either a massive patch that gets released or refunds start getting issued, and it gets pulled from the eShop because that is blasphemous. So you're right. In that instance, they're getting it even worse than us. Like you think we're not getting $70 worth of it. They're not getting. They got robbed. Essentially,
Clearly.
they got robbed, yo. But I guess ultimately, and unless there's something else that you wanted to kind of cover related to the game, I think ultimately the gameplay is fine in terms of the character rosters. Like I think every character, they like I said, I wish they had done a little bit more with Nitara in particular. But even Raiko, like Raiko is surprisingly good. Like you said in the group chat, he's like a Muay Thai fighter, like a weapons master. His fatalities are like especially gruesome for such like a basic style character. So like I feel like the love and attention to detail on the roster is really good. I think for the characters that are there, this has been the most interested, I would say, in picking the entire roster since 9. Where it's like you see certain characters like, I don't think I'll ever play as them. Like, no, I kind of want to play as everybody. Like, everybody looks like they have something that I want to see. And I think ultimately NetherRealm did a really solid job. It isn't the undisputed fighting game of the year that we were all predicting it to be based off the trailers, but I think we got a really, really solid Mortal Kombat game going into 2023 on the current gen consoles. Yeah. Is there anything else you wanted to add before we move on?
Free Quan Chi and Ermac.
Hashtag NRS apology tour.
Free Quan Chi and Ermac, bro. Because I was like, no. Because it's like, no, because bro, remember there was this big discussion. Oh my gosh, the mystery 24th character. Is it Noob Saibot? Is it Kai or
Is it Jade?
is it Jade? I was like, nope, it's definitely Quan Chi.
That's
Yeah,
DLC.
because like, and it was so funny, bro. Like the answer was in front of our face the entire time. Look at the slot where Shang Tsung is located. I was like, bro, it's right in our face the entire time.
Well, it was in our face, but nobody would have expected for such an integral character in the story to just not be there. That's not our fault. Like, you can't blame us for not thinking that, oh, here's a 24 slot. Surely somebody will pop up there before this game releases. Not our fault. We didn't do anything wrong. We just thought like, oh, with the launch trailer or whatever, they'll release the final character, and it's like, ha, gotcha. Season Pass 1 coming soon. So speaking of DLC packages and pricing and rollouts, Tim, you brought this up in the group chat with Jory about Resident Evil 4 Remake getting a DLC being released next week. And as you guys know, I'm far from a Resident Evil super fan. I'm a casual fan like most. And you guys pointed out that it's being released as DLC, but it was originally part of the PS2 port of the game, if I'm remembering correctly. It's being priced at $10. And what are your thoughts about being sold the remastered version of the complete edition of the game?
Personally, for me, I feel stuff that was giving you, especially, and I called it the classic era, which is like PS2, Xbox, GameCube. I call that era the classic era. Like, I feel like a game, like for something like of this caliber that was given to you for free, I feel like you should not put a price on it. Excuse me. Yes, this is a remaster. It's selling well, and yes, the DLC is priced at $10. I get it, but no, because one thing I realized with Capcom, bro, if you just give them a little bit, if you just
They'll
give them a
charge you.
little bit,
They'll charge you for
they
any and
they
everything.
they will charge you for every last single thing, bro. So that's why you have to be very careful with them, bro. Very, very careful with them. But it looks good. I definitely, like, they had a very specific cameo in it, Albert Wesker, and with a very new, sleeker design. So it's like, okay, yeah. So Capcom, I'll wait for 3 months till you to announce Resident Evil 5, which I personally still feel to this day should have been the conclusion, because to go back to our Street Fighter conversation, Capcom does not know what they want to do with these IPs anymore. You saw it in Devil May Cry 5, where it's like you could tell, like, yeah, you put all this effort into this new story, this continuation from the last Devil May Cry 4, but you could just tell, like, yeah, you brought Virgil back, but you don't know what to do with any of these characters. Or you gave Nero this new super demon mode, but you don't know what to do with his character. You don't know what to do with his character because the biggest thing about him was he was the son of Virgil, so he had some of Virgil's abilities, but not no more.
Yeah.
So now he's Mega Man
Yeah.
with a sword.
Oh.
But and then even in terms of like Resident Evil, like after like because I was like bro, when I saw Village, I was like, bro, why does this feel like a tech demo to Resident Evil 4? And guess what was announced a couple of months later?
Mm.
The Resident Evil 4 remakes. I was like, wow. So yeah, so I mean, they're living off their remake catalog, bro. They're just living off it, and five. To be honest, people five still holds a very special place in people's hearts. But then five also had very great DLC stories, and I'm just kind of like I'm just waiting. Like, so okay, so you're gonna remake five, okay?
Probably.
But then the main three DLC modes, I just foresee it like you're just gonna sell it to us all over again, and like the fools that we are, we're just gonna buy them.
I'm gonna buy.
And but then my thing
Yeah.
about it is, is like, all right, so where do we go from there? Because you could tell, like after the way Resident Evil 8 ended, you don't know where to take this story. So is there going to be a retcon of six or a remaking of six?
I mean, possibly. All right. I
So
think the question I would ask you as a fan is like, would you rather them continue doing village esque stories or kind of adding the finer details back to the legacy that came before it?
yeah, I do feel like going back to the legacy before is it's a good way to retcon certain things because yes, there were some parts of six that were good, but then there were some parts that just didn't really make sense. Like, so out of the blue, you find this random person who is Albert Wesker's son that he had a child with from a person that we don't know,
Mm-hmm.
and we're just supposed to run with this story, like, and it's just like, because I get it, like, yes, even when you look at the animated movies, they're still following a lot of stuff from like the established games, like 4, 5, and 6. So okay, there's certain parts that that you're obviously running with, but I do feel there just needs to be some fixing, man, or just like to be honest, bro, like and I'll say this from the Devil May Cry aspect. I had no issues with the reboot, man. I had no issues
Mm-hmm.
with it because I felt it fixed the problem. The problem was you didn't know where to take this story, and then that's Capcom's issue because four is technically part this, two is technically part that, and it's like, bro, come on. Y'all, like, you need to start developing a Disney Marvel type of mindset before you start establishing these properties because now you're hitting this plateau state where you don't know where to take these properties.
But
You don't know where to take.
that could be the honest truth, right? Like Capcom in a lot of ways could be the Japanese Warner Brothers, whereas like you have these happy accidents, right? Where you have these immortal gaming characters like Dante, like Virgil, like Wesker, like Leon, right? And you're just like these characters that are super established in these genres and these coming of age gaming moments, and maybe not like you said having planned for like what's the end game of these franchises. Like we know these are money makers, but like you said, maybe I've squeezed all of the blood I can out of the stone that is Ryu, Chun Li, and Ken. What else can I do with these characters 40 years later? As I was asking, like, would you want to see them try to like forge ahead, or just can just continue this retcon train and tweaking train and finalizing train of these games from Capcom because they're going to keep making them.
Well, I do feel like if they ever establish a nine, do what that last movie did, but better. Just bring in the the main cast
Everybody.
for one big bang. Bring in Leon, bring in Chris, bring in Jill, bring in Claire. You don't have to really bring in Rebecca ish. I mean, I guess. And then the last major character from Stars that's still alive, Barry Burton. Bring him back, like you brought him back for Revelations 2, which was a good thing. But it's time to really end these stories, man. And that's why I kind
Mm,
of feel a lot of these companies they're really just overstaying their welcome. And then, like I said, bro, they don't know what to do. They don't know what to do with
mm.
these characters anymore. It's like, yes, Wesker, sold the virus online to the black market. Now everybody's making their own version of a virus out there, and then it's just like, all right, well, bro, we're kind of like remakes out to an extent.
Mm. Okay.
Like, to be honest, the only remake that I feel is kind of in a good state is the Dead Space remake, because you could tell that they saw that 3 was a failure in their eyes. So they're trying to
Mm-hmm.
revamp the story in a way. Because I do feel like we should be getting an announcement of Dead Space 2 remake. And maybe from that, we will see, like, well, all right, if you're going to tackle 3 again, how would you handle it this time?
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Okay.
how I'm looking,
I'm
and that's how I'm looking at Resident Evil 5 and 6, because we already know that they're coming. We already know,
especially
because
Resident Evil 5, especially.
like, we already know that they're coming. So it's like, all right, so you're gonna do 5, redo 5, and then potentially 6. So, and if 6 could be a good closure where you could get some good closure, because I did feel 7 and 8 didn't focus a lot on the key characters for a reason. Like, yes, you
Mm,
had cameos of Chris, but you could tell Chris was just not the main character. So maybe it's like, maybe 6 can establish a way of, okay, this is a big closure moment for these characters. So technically, yeah, we don't have to redo 7 and 8. You could just already consider this as closure in a sense.
right. Okay. Okay. All right. I think that's a good note to move on from. I was just again curious because at some point, once especially once these remakes go on enough sale, I will definitely finally dip my toe into the Resident Evil waters. But it's
Oh,
just like
we did.
I don't want to get into another.
We
Go ahead.
definitely getting 5, bro. We definitely getting
Oh,
5. That
okay.
was my favorite. That
Yeah,
that was my favorite.
when they reintroduced the co-op mechanic, I'll be like, "Yo, Tim, let me know what time you're online, bro. Like, we could do it." And I'll follow your lead, assuming they bring co-op back, which I would imagine they would, because that was one of the bigger draws of that game. You don't think so?
No, 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 no. They definitely will, bro.
Oh,
They definitely
oh,
will.
okay. Because you made the face, I was like, "What you mean?" That was one of the things that like actually piqued my interest at that time. I was like, "Oh, they got co-op. Oh, all right, cool. Like, I don't got to be afraid by myself. That's what's up. Let's go." But all right. Moving on from Resident Evil, but not necessarily out of remake territory. Getting into Square Enix. I shared a snippet of a news article in the chat with you guys about how Square Enix is suddenly all the way back in financial trouble. Now, obviously, well, not obviously, but for those who don't know, this is not Square Enix's first time kind of being at a financial loss and struggling for profits. But I will admit, and I think Tim, you said something similar, and Jory, is that we were all like a little surprised that Square Enix was doing so bad financially, coming off of the heels of how well the Final Fantasy VII Remake sold. For even as divisive as 16 was, 16 sold really, really, really well. So to see that, like, yeah, they've lost millions, if not billions of dollars, and they're struggling to keep the doors open, and I'm just like, how? I don't understand. And then, of course, as I read the article, you see that Marvel's Avengers apparently was a huge, huge loss for them. And then you tack on Forspoken, which we don't know if it was a flop necessarily, but it definitely did not meet the sales expectations they were looking for. So my thing is, Tim, what are your thoughts? Like, how do you feel about the way Square Enix handled Avengers, Forspoken? Do you feel like they should even be in this position right now, given the success of the games that they've had?
Um, like I said, yeah, like I was very surprised, especially with the success of like what they're doing with Final Fantasy, because people are just ready for Rebirth. People are
Mm-hmm.
like gears down ready. I
Me
do
being
feel
people.
that deal. I, I do feel like that deal with Disney, especially you got to call it as what it is, that Titan Disney. I do feel in terms of whatever the discussion was under the table, like in terms of contracts and licensing, I do feel like maybe they probably hit a heavy loss, like maybe because it goes back to sales expectations.
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't hit a certain mark, maybe they owe Disney a certain amount of money, or maybe Disney is going to penalize them to a certain degree. You just never know the lawmaking side of these things, and that's why I constantly tell people, bro. That's why I don't foresee another Marvel versus Capcom, bro, because you got to just realize, man, some of these companies are in a very, very like itchy place when it comes to their like into like their properties.
Mm-hmm.
And Disney is one of them, bro. Like, you can't even say Marvel anymore. No, you got to say The parent company, bro, Disney,
Sheesh. It's true. You can
Mickey
definitely
Mouse,
start to
Mickey Mouse.
you can feel the effects of, and it's hard to say if it's a good or a bad thing, right? Because I do think there is something good to be seen in the marketing machine that is Disney, but you can definitely
Hmm.
see pre Disney Marvel, post Disney Marvel, pre Disney. You know, like you said, once Disney kind of gets involved on some of these properties, it does change drastically. It seems, and Avengers was no exception. Go ahead.
Yeah, yeah, and it was yeah, it was a huge flop. Like in terms of Forspoken, I just kind of felt that maybe there was just some missteps in. I mean, I thought it had good reception, from the demo and everything. I mean, you never may know. Sometimes, bro, these games are late bloomers, bro.
Hmm.
Like, for example, like, yes, The Last of Us Part 1 got released. Like, yeah, it was selling, of course, because, it had a little updated graphics and, people just love, like, oh, now it's on PS5. Okay, cool. But then it wasn't until that
The
show
show.
dropped.
Hmm. It's like a brand new
It,
release.
it was like a brand new release because I met so many people who never played the game, watched the show. There's like, Tim, who is this character? Tim, who is that character? Oh yeah, that's so and so from the games. And then it was just a curiosity to see. Oh well, well if the game is going one by one, I want to see how it happened in the game. Oh, oh yeah, but you're gonna cry when Sarah died. Oh yeah, that was so sad. And then they when they saw how Sarah, like, they was like, yo, it hits the same way.
Hmm.
So it was just that curiosity, man. But yeah, so I mean, maybe Forspoken is just a late bloomer, bro. Maybe it's just a late bloomer. But yes, Avengers, that was a fail. That was a fail.
But do you think
And
it
I
was
do,
that big of a big of a fail to like have Square Enix be like this though? Yeah. Sheesh.
yeah, bro. Like I said, that Titan, Disney's a Titan, bro. Now it's different for like people like Insomniac because, or like Sony, I would say, because remember, I think you said Sony owns the film rights to Spider-Man,
Sony
correct?
owns the film rights. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, and technically digital. So like, this is something within their realm. So it's kind of technically, yes, we have shares in this character, so go away.
Hmm.
So it's no problem. Now, Mortal Kombat, not Mortal Kombat, Wolverine on the other hand, I don't know how that's gonna go. I mean, technically, it's still I don't know. I mean, we'll just see in time. But yeah,
I I think that was a smart decision on their end because seeing how Disney technically hasn't done anything with the X Men since they re acquired it, it's kind of in that gray area where like we don't have a current established movie version of this character. So even if they want to
very
kind of
fair
go
point.
comic inspired, they could. You know.
Very fair point. Okay, yeah, that's a very fair point.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, like I said, man, it's just yeah. I mean, hopefully, the continued revenue from the Final Fantasy helps them out. I do feel
Hmm.
like they should bring back the city. Yeah, I do. I do feel like they should. I feel like they should, especially with this new focus on like a newer combat system, bro. It would make sense.
Hmm.
It would make sense. You would revitalize characters like Noctis.
Hmm.
Even bring back the gloriness of 13. Like, but I used to hate. I was like, bro, she getting another sequel again? It's like, bro, like how
Lightning
many she get?
returns. Dot 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 for the final time.
It's lightning strikes three times.
Yeah.
It's like, bro, another one. It's like,
Final
I
Fantasy
mean,
13,
man,
where there's thunder, there's lightning. Yeah, yeah. I mean, she was in the City of sequel, so
mm,
um, you know me, I'm all about a lot of the passion projects of Final Fantasy. The only thing I haven't gotten my hands on yet is Ever Crisis, but I just the only thing that worries me is that I can also see Square Enix going, I want to say, the Capcom route, where a lot of it might become too Final Fantasy dependent, right? Where it's like, for as cool and as promising as Ever Crisis looks, there also was that third person, like PUBG style shooter with Final Fantasy characters that already closed its doors because nobody cared, right? So I'm like, I understand that it's probably going to become a lot more like I'm sure Rebirth is going to be the game of the year contender next year from jump. Just how it's looking, just the way they're kind of depending on it financially. But I'm also cautious and skeptical about like I hope it doesn't turn into we're gonna get every single Final Fantasy VII spinoff you could ever think of. 8's getting remastered, 10's getting remastered. Any Final Fantasy that's ever sold anything is getting, we're gonna get the 13 Lightning compilation package now. Like,
No, no,
right?
they
I'm
won't.
like, I don't want that either.
I felt like seven was very smart because it was like I said, it was a fan. I mean, and then when you really look at it, bro, when you look at the PlayStation Store, they've already done like HD new coat of paint
Quote unquote
refinements.
HD version, yeah.
Oh, as Jory got on me earlier today, repolished,
Yes,
repolished.
the
Like
repolished
so,
version.
so like they're on the store already. But then seven was such a big pinnacle part of history. Like because it goes back to what we said about different properties. Seven was made into movies. Seven had like different like it would you absorb seven in so many different forms of media that
Hmm.
bringing it back in a new light was great to see. Like I've heard people is like, yo, I've never played Final Fantasy before in my life, but when I bought this new one, I was like, yo, I thought it was gonna be like almost like traditional RPG style where you just sit there. Like, no, I'm able to move around.
Hmm. You can
Yeah, bro.
scramble. You can switch out characters. You can strategize on like, all right, Cloud's about to get hit. I'll revive him with Aerith and then have her scramble. It's like, again, I'm glad that they did it. I think to tie into Rebirth a little bit because they announced that new trailer, which I thought was just so amazing. I'm glad that they feel confident in revitalizing this particular installment in the Final Fantasy lineage. I just don't want it to become dependent on it. Right? I don't want it to become something where because 16 wasn't the runaway blockbuster that they might have wanted, now we are going to get a Royal Edition because they need it to sell 15 million copies. Right? I'm like 16. It wasn't my favorite Final Fantasy. Again, the boss battles are second to none. But it's like I don't need you guys to now DLC us to death because you're afraid of continuing with new properties because you're struggling financially. But as we've seen with the history of any gaming company, that tends to be the process of like, okay, we can't venture with these new IPs anymore. Avengers was such a flop. Forspoken is not going anywhere. You guys gonna get Final Fantasy to your ears bleed, essentially.
Yeah, when you said the Capcom route, bro, I was like, bro, yeah.
How many Street
Outside
Fighter
of
twos have we gotten?
outside of Monster Hunter, what have they really done that is new?
Nothing. We got Exo
Nothing.
Primal, I guess.
And then everything else from there has just been a remake.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm again. It was eye opening for me, and we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. And just to geek out a little bit, I think Rebirth is going to be amazing. I tweeted, I was like, leap year, leap day, leap century. I will be there day one, no matter what. February 29th, I will be there getting my collector's edition. Thank you very much, good sir or madam, and be walking out, and you will not see me until my wedding. At that point, I will be in my man cave. But yeah, you were on on your workcation during the time that Jory and I talked about this, but seeing Square Enix being in this position, seeing like even Volition Games closing down, it's just weird to see how unstable these kind of like monolithic video game companies have become over the years of these places that should be titans in the industry. It's like you would think that like Ubisoft or like EA will be struggling, but no, they're not. It's these ones that are giving us like these classic, timeless games that just seem to be struggling to find their footing. It's just weird. It's just so strange. But to keep things moving, I guess do you want to? Oh, I guess we could just knock out all the remake announcements in one go. Tomb Raider is getting a remaster on the Switch. Tim, how are we feeling, man?
Why? What is the point?
It's just very random.
What is the
It's
point? I
very
mean,
random.
because at first I thought they were talking about the Crystal Dynamics one, but I was like, wait, no, this is the
The
the old
original
one.
PlayStation
Like,
era.
why? Why? Like, what is the real purpose of that? Like, I just kind of feel, does the Switch even have a market that even warrants that? So it's just like, for what?
The only thing that came to mind is maybe this is Nintendo's way of hinting but not hinting that they're a little bit afraid of like the Steam Deck and all these other comparable handheld consoles that can pump out these AAA games. And they're like, "Hey, just to remind you guys that the Switch isn't just for kids. If you guys, if you guys who we know are in your 30s and 40s now want to play a classic game on the go, we have a market for you guys too. That's why you can get Pokemon Stadium on the eShop right now. Remember that? Remember that, millennials? It just kind of felt like more of that, of like, hey, we want to cater to you guys too. We didn't forget you guys. It's not just about Zelda and another Mario Kart.
But bro, I mean, that's the culture that they made for themselves. So you have to live with your decisions, or
Mm-hmm.
use or use the remaining years that you have to revamp yourself.
Yeah,
Like, I feel like this type of stuff doesn't really make it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to me at all.
yeah. It,
So
it
no,
it it
you
gives me the vibes of like when Bayonetta 2 got announced for the Wii U. It's like who who in that marketplace of Nintendo is buying Bayonetta 2 on the Wii U of all things? Like who?
but you know but you know what you could give me on the Switch? Mega Man Legends 3.
This man will not relent, yo.
Mega Man Legends 3 on the Switch.
We'll see.
Whatever.
It'll be
Whatever.
a launch title with Switch 2. That's what
To
that's what
be
they're
to be
aiming for.
honest, to be honest, a Mega Man Legends 1 and 2 remaster would make more sense on the Switch
Mm-hmm.
than Terminator, like on that Tomb Raider 1 to 3. Like, no. No.
Yeah. Hey man, don't cross it out. Christmas is coming. They need to get them Switch. They need to fund that Switch 2 somehow. So don't cross it
They,
out.
I guess.
Speaking of Nintendo and selling us our childhood bit by bit by bit, we also did get an announcement of yet another wave of DLC. Not that it's outside of what they had already announced previously, but we are getting another wave of Mario Kart 8 DLC, the game that will never die. And they introduced a little twist. We're essentially getting a version of Diddy Kong Racing in Mario Kart. Diddy Kong, a lot of the Kongs, basically, if the Kong made a cameo in the Mario movie, they're now in Mario Kart. Tim, how do you feel about that? How do you
I
feel
was
about?
just about to say that. I was just about to say that, bro. It's the movie. It's the movie.
Yeah.
It's the movie. The movie did well. So
Mm-hmm.
it's basically fan service because, to be honest, my nephew has the game. So,
Mm,
and I can imagine a 5-year-old child, picking up this game. Uncle, where are the Kongs?
yeah. Yep. There you go. Diddy, Cranky, all of them, just all on the cart recreating the scenes from the movie.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense, and then that's something I can't even fault them for because, to be honest, it just make if it makes perfect sense, by all means, go ahead,
Mm-hmm.
put a reasonable price point for one,
Mm-hmm.
and just go ahead.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I would love to see my nephew satisfied from that because
Yeah.
of that movie,
Yeah.
because I watched it myself, and he plays the game very fluently. So I would love to see, like, yeah, like, to make a child's day. Yes, of course, enjoy
Yeah.
that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's because we've been gamers for so long and because we've seen it all. It's rare and weird when a company gets it just right. Where you're like, you know what? That's acceptable. Okay. Oh, I have no pushback at all. I'll take the season pass. Thank you very much. You can take my hard-earned money at this point. I just thought it was interesting and cool, and I was like, oh, well, there we go. There goes the tie-in in a way that just makes organic sense, and again ties both generations. Our generation of again having experienced Diddy Kong Racing on N64 in real time, and like you said, your nephew who was like, I've only know these characters from the movie, which I don't blame him, and then now I get to just replay the movie on my video game. It's moments like that that will live on with him when he's 15, 25, 35. Those are those key moments. So I thought that was dope. And tying it into the movie, which we did speak about it when it was released, and saw how independent Peach had become in the movie. Peach is getting her own game. Princess Peach, the last course, I think it's called. Basically, it's is it the last course? The last something. The
something of that nature.
yeah, the Princess
Because I
Peach
did see
standalone
I
game.
did, yeah, because I did see the cover art for it, and then like I said, bro, it makes sense. There's
Hmm.
a lot of things that are sprouting from that particular movie that is kind of like it's basically like to go back to to one of the goats of all films, Inception. You planted the idea in somebody's head, so now you have to build it from there. So what
Princess
they're
Peach
doing,
Showtime. Sorry, Princess Peach
okay,
Showtime. Let's go. Go ahead.
so what they're doing, it just makes sense, bro. And then Mario, I would say for what they are, they're the king. They're the king of spinoffs. They're the king of
Yes.
spinoffs. Till this day, Luigi's Mansion and Super Mario Sunshine lives rent free in my head.
Mm-hmm.
Till this day.
Luigi's Mansion 2 is getting an HD remake coming out next year. That was announced too.
So it's just So what they're doing is right. And that's what I'm saying. That is right. But this Tomb Raider, no, 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 like that just doesn't make sense to me. That does not make no sense whatsoever.
Like I said, bro, not be shocked if that was the conversation in the boardroom. Like, how can we fight back against the Steam Deck? What do we have access to? Tomb Raider. Give them a Tomb Raider. We're already doing Metal Gear Solid. Give them a Tomb Raider. We'll just throw all of it at them. Like, take that. But yeah,
I mean, when you look at Metal Gear Solid, that makes a little bit different because there are certain people who do still love that classic era. I would say, like
hmm
when the games when they all released on like PS2 and stuff like that. I do foresee people still wanting that particular era because yes, we're technically getting a remake remaster of three, but then
hmm
there are still some people who still love that old school over the shoulder the alert sign going on,
hmm
hovering type of play style. There are certain people who still love that, so that's why certain people still want that. I mean, yes, so that makes more sense on the Switch to me.
yeah,
To me,
yeah.
but yeah,
Okay. I was just curious. I think, uh, as you've known, like we've known each other for a decade at this point. I'm
decade
always,
plus.
yeah, a decade plus. I'm always for like heroine influenced stories. Like I've always leaned towards the Tomb Raiders and things like that because, to be fair, we get male centric, male led games. It's just the norm. There's nothing wrong with it. So having a traditionally damsel in distress character kind of take the lead in a way that's not just like, so he pulled out Mario, plopped in Peach, and here's the game. Like she's getting her own very unique gameplay and story. It's like this is fine. It may not be like a day one purchase for me, but I'll probably play it. Like I'm intrigued enough to kind of see where it goes. She has mode changes and costume changes, and there's Kung Fu Peach and all this stuff. It's like this seems cool. This seems fine. Seems kind of
I
like
was,
in line, but
to go back to heroine stories. I mean, Sony could have revived Heavenly Sword, but of course, Ninja Theory is on. Yeah,
I I've been seeing, but you know what's funny? I've been seeing a lot of talk lately about why hasn't Heavenly Sword got a sequel. Like a lot of the Twitter users that I follow, a lot of YouTubers that I follow, I've been seeing it pop up more and more and more. Of like it was supposed to be one of Sony's flagship PS3 era and beyond characters and franchises, and they just never did anything with it.
yeah, and then now the developer is just on. They're under a new ship,
Yeah,
at the moment. So yeah, so that sucks. But then I definitely hear you what you say about more heroine stories, and that's what I really did love about the Crystal Dynamics version of Tomb Raider, especially I would say Part Two,
mm-hmm,
Rise of the Tomb Raider.
mm-hmm.
That was a fun game, bro. Like I put like fragments of my soul into playing that, bro. Yeah, and it really did give me that female Uncharted isk because
Yeah,
even how they expanded on the treasures, and she had to learn how to read monoliths to decipher certain things. And it was like, oh, you can't decipher this yet because you haven't done this trial of to death yet, and even like the death trap tombs and stuff like that. It's like, bro, this was very, very interesting.
Yeah, and paced well, right? I think that's also the thing of like that's the underrated part of a reboot, or like here's like the prologue or prelude of how this character became who they are, is you have to make it sensible. Whereas like if she can do all the things out the gate, it's like what was the point of rebooting this in the first place? If she can solve all the tombs effortlessly, if she can survive all the death traps effortlessly, like one of the memes about the first Tomb Raider game is like this is the one where Laura gets tortured because she's getting scratched and bruised and she's hitting herself on things because she's such a rookie in this environment. And like you said, I think the Shadow, where's the Shadow Tomb Raider, right? That's the second one. They all
Yes,
have kind of
Shadow.
confusing
No,
names.
no, Tomb Raider, Rise of the Tomb Raider, and
Rise
Shadow
of
of
the
the
Tomb
Tomb
Raider.
Raider.
Yeah, Rise of the Tomb Raider just took a lot of the, some of the rougher edges of Tomb Raider and kind of perfected it. So I that's a game where it's like I can never remember the names for whatever reason, but every time someone's like, "Oh, should I play the reboot?" I was like, "You should, and you'll really enjoy two." That's all I always say. I'm like, "You'll really enjoy two." Shadow was cool, but Rise is just like that was the one for whatever reason.
Shadow had that Uncharted 3 type of like, and it happens in TV shows as well. The junior season is always that weird one, bro, because it kind of like they're making different story mode choices that is just kind of like, okay.
Yeah, and technically it was handled by a different developer, technically. So like they weren't able
Yeah,
to bring back the original team for the first two games.
yeah. So like I said, part two,
Yeah.
love it.
Yep. Gold. Must play when we bring back those segments. So speaking of part two and all things sequel, Tim, we got a huge multi-content creator official publication rollout of all things Marvel Spider-Man 2 for the past week, where
Oh yes.
IGN's dropping articles and videos, GameSpot dropping articles and videos. Your favorite content creator got invited to a behind the doors scene gameplay aspect of Spider-Man. So they're dropping their content of their impressions of the game. Everybody got invited except us, but it's coming. Sony. um, and yeah, they're looking to really ramp up, kind of go the God of War Ragnarok route with just a full on month of just promotion leading up to Marvel Spider-Man 2. So we got a better look at the open world. We got a better look at the traversal mechanics. We got, although it wasn't really in the IGN breakdown, which I thought was a little weird, through the content creators, we got a breakdown of how some of the gameplay has changed, some of the combat mechanics have changed. And Tim, what are your thoughts? Like, how do you feel like given these reveals of the web gliding system and the way you can kind of still use some of the symbiote powers even when you don't have the symbiote suit on, and the lizard boss fight? Like, what are you thinking about how Spider-Man 2 is starting to look now?
All I'm thinking about is the amount of stress that I'm going to go through for my platinum trophy. That's what I'm going. That's because, bro, it's such a beautiful game, man. It's such a beautiful, very immersive type of game, man. And then just seeing more of it, and I'm glad that they really did highlight more on the combat mechanics, because I know that was something that we kind of didn't really get in the Lizard trailer. I would say we got more of the action sequences.
Yeah.
But I'm really looking forward to it, man. But I do feel like, especially how the last game with a lot of the bigger bulk is not, yeah, the bulk of it is in the story mode, but then also the side quests.
Yes.
We got a Mysterio reveal. So I was like, okay, okay. So like, they're definitely pulling out like, yes, this city, yeah, Craven is doing all this other stuff, but there's a lot of other people out there as well. So it's really giving you that real packed Arkham City type of vibe.
Yes.
And I say Arkham City because I felt like Arkham City it was such a beautiful game, bro. Arkham City and Arkham Knight did some real good stuff with like, different set of like, characters and villains and things of that nature. Yeah, at a certain point, certain things was a little redundant. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, we fighting Mad Hatter again? Okay.
Yeah. But the world building aspects, I think,
Yes, the
were
world building aspects.
just say
And
they
then,
they they stuck to their guns with certain
yeah.
things.
And then, of course, with the suits, like that's a big tie into the movie, because you saw a universe of different Spider-Man, Spider-Women type of feel. So it's just like it really is giving you that refreshing vibe. And remember, with certain suits, you get certain power ups.
Hmm.
So let's see how they expand on that. But overall, man, I'm just really looking forward to this. Um, I feel like that game is a good way to like carry us over into the fall because to be honest, I feel like after that,
It
what
gets
it
a little
if you're
quiet.
not real if you're not like more like
Well,
a casual game here or there.
yeah, I was gonna say because I mean, Call of Duty is still coming. Nintendo has a lot of things before the end of the year. There's a lot of games still coming out. To be fair, but like you said, a casual player, more single player story oriented type of gamer, this might be the last big push, to the best of my knowledge, before the end of the year.
I do feel we're gonna get a Horizon Complete Edition. I have been seeing like reports of that. So Horizon 2 like bundled
Mm,
together with the
with
expansion
the
pack.
DLC
So
and
I do
everything,
foresee
that makes sense.
yes. So I foresee that coming, and that would be like a good probably like winter type of thing to really just bundle it together to really push those
Yeah.
sales again. Um, but other than that, I mean, yeah, loving it. What about you?
So, for me, like I said, initially I was a little surprised by the lack of specification on the some of the bigger publications. Like I was surprised I had to go find content creators to talk about some of these finer details in Spider-Man. I thought some of these bigger companies kind of glossed over really important aspects of the gameplay. In my opinion, they're like, "Oh, the story is good, the graphics are good." This, I'm like, "That's fine. I can see that." What about the combat? What about the traversal? What about this? And from all what I'm hearing, it's the same thing that you said. It's just like, yeah, that platinum trophy is going to be an experience. It's not entirely flawless for me. I think I still, for as much as they did end up showing about the combat, I still am a little nervous about the combat being a little like. It's funny because people are nitpicking about, oh, does the web swinger look the same? Does the graphics look the same? Does this look the same? Like the combat to me is where I know. I'm gonna get there in a second. The combat for me is where things are. I'm like, I'm a little on the fence still because a lot of the combat mechanics really didn't get refined until Miles. Right, Miles was the one that had a lot of mix up to his combinations. He could launch people, like launch groups of people. The Venom Punch and all these things that he could do kind of really added a lot of variety to his moveset. And you can definitely see from the gameplay clips that they're doing their best to have essentially have Peter keep up. But the other part of it is that they gave Miles even more powers. So the question that's still in my mind is like I don't know if I've seen anything outside of the symbiote gameplay, obviously, because it's such a drastic change in terms of combat, that makes me want to play as Peter over Miles. And that's the thing that like I still haven't gotten, like even with the whole reveal that he has a little metal mechanics, a little Doctor Octopus esque arms that pop out in combat. I'm like, that's still not as cool as what Miles can do. Like the symbiote stuff he could do, like the whole God of War Spartan Rage and all these things he could do in the symbiote suit. That's cool. At some point, obviously, he's gonna lose the suit. So is he still gonna have all these cool things in his repertoire as opposed to Miles, who's now using projectile lightning and doing all these even cooler things now? What do you think about that?
Well, to be honest, bro, I just kind of feel that's just the the issues, of an establishing a successor. Because when you really
Mm,
look at it, bro, like even from the introduction of Miles, like in the comic books, yeah, like bro, he's a much cooler Peter Parker.
yeah.
Even in terms of like the last Spider-Man movie, like look, Peter being the dad, it's like, yeah, but then who is he looking up to really like not even say take his place because of course they're there from different universes, but
Mm-hmm.
then who is he looking to say, he's the future.
Mm.
And sometimes and then especially we watch anime, bro, like so that's always a big topic about like character progression and the next generation. Miles is the next generation.
But do you feel like even with Insomniac storytelling, and we'll just stick on Insomniac because obviously they're kind of doing their own thing to a degree. Do you think that they'd be willing to embrace Miles being the new face? Because I feel like with Miles and Peter, it's almost like the Goku Gohan syndrome, where it's like, in a lot of ways, Gohan is just a further evolution of his father. He's more of a tactical fighter, or could be if he took it seriously. But because Goku is the face, we can't really abandon Goku. So Gohan continues to take a backseat for the property to continue.
I feel like that's how it's gonna go.
Mm,
I feel like you described it perfectly. I feel like that's exactly how it's going to go. Because like, yes, it's the space, and when you think of Spider-Man, you originally just think of Peter. But when you
yeah,
say Miles, most people just say Miles.
yeah,
So and I foresee this thing becoming like a trilogy. I do feel like maybe part three or however part two ends or whatever story DLC we'll get, we'll see some type of refinement or I would say additions to Peter. So it's still so far ahead to really say what exactly happens to him. But
mm,
yeah, that's where he's at. The biggest, and we, when we're analyzing these trailers and stuff, bro, the one thing we look out for is gimmicks.
yeah.
And the biggest gimmick for Peter right now is the
It's a
suit.
suit. It's a suit.
Is
Yeah.
the symbiote suit. So that's the biggest gimmick right now, bro. So you do realize like yeah, once that is gone, once Mega Evolution is gone, we're just back to figuring things out.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I would say that's probably my only thing where I'm like, I hope they have enough. They've thought ahead enough to still make Peter interesting outside of the suit. Other than that, like you said, story wise, I don't see any really issues with the story. I think everything looks great. I wouldn't even say concerned. Like I'm sure whatever they decide to go and whoever they decide to be Venom will make sense within that story. I'm not looking for it to
Craven.
be Eddie. I mean, maybe.
It's Craven, bro. It's definitely Craven, man.
Hmm.
Like it's definitely Craven because when you look at it, bro, like the symbiote matches the person's physique,
Hmm.
and when you look at it, it's like, all right, who is this? Who's that person's size? And especially with more of like a hunter type of style, like a predator
Hmm.
style, apex predators type of style. Who has that mindset?
Craven.
It's Craven. It's Craven, man.
But
It's definitely Craven, bro.
does having Venom in the trailer say that we're gonna heal the world? Do you think was just a misplaced line? Because it sounded like it was from Venom itself or himself or however whoever the character is. How do you think that would tie into Craven's mindset of we're gonna heal the world?
Well, when you remember, like, people like that, I would say megalomaniacs or people, you just never really know what really drives them. And I remember they always look at the way they justified certain things, they always look at it in a very artistic point of view.
Hmm.
So, yes, you're like, when we dive into their psyche, we'll probably see. Because that's one thing I do foresee that game does very well. Because, especially like when look how they handle Mr. Negative, bro.
Fire,
Like,
fire
So,
writing.
so I definitely foresee us like diving deeper into the character.
Mm.
And
Okay,
to
his
be honest, bro,
motivation.
like, and to be honest, maybe this game will probably open up more Marvel Street type of dialogues. Maybe it'll open up more of like a Daredevil, I would say,
Hmm.
because I and that's and people have been saying they would love to relive the glory of like the animated Spider days of he had all of these different connections with different people.
Hmm.
Like one day War Machine showed up, one day Iron Man showed up, one day Blade showed up. And I get it, yeah, sometimes you don't want to get it too chaotic, but
Yeah.
I do foresee like tying in real good stuff. Like it's doing pretty well, man. So I do foresee let's just see how it goes and then we'll be able to have like a better point of view of all right, this is where we're going from here.
Okay. How do you feel about Sony maybe subtly, or maybe it's an Insomniac decision? How do you feel about them kind of integrating some of their other properties into the Spider-Man game? Like one of the things I that immediately came to mind during the Lizard boss fight gameplay, I'm like, so it's a Spider-Man Uncharted to some degree. Like this is like he's holding onto the lizard. He's scaling the building. There's a jeep that he has to dodge out of the way. It's like it's giving Uncharted set piece, and then the Spartan rage of the symbiote. Like, oh hey Kratos, what's going on, man? Like, good to see you make a cameo in another Sony franchise. How do you feel about them incorporating some of their other properties into this game?
I mean, well, they did it in the last Ratchet game. Remember, there was
Hmm.
a gun. that you did, and it like summoned things from different dimensions. And when you kept doing it, sometimes it would summon things from other PlayStation games.
Mm.
So like yes, this is a Sony product. So yeah, like like bringing certain things to light in a very
Like Easter eggish way.
it, yeah, Easter egg is that's a very fair way of saying it. I'm like, it's cool to me
Okay. I
because
don't have a problem
it's a
with it.
it's a cool way to tie in your properties, bro. And that goes back to my conversation earlier about like, these games. You're seeing more centralization. You're seeing more connections to these things. Like for
Mm.
example, and I believe I think it was Ragnarok or the one before it, where when Kratos is talking to Mimir, he talks like Kratos mentioned his like yes, there was one time where I was in a tournament where I fought warriors from many different places. It's like PlayStation All Stars.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
it's like it was such a cool. It's like wow, that was very subtle, but it was like wow, okay, I'll give you that.
Hmm. Even in Forbidden West, there's a Horizon Forbidden West. There's a shack that you can visit in the deep frost era of the map, and you find what do you find there? A plushie of Kratos and Atreus with a backstory of like there used to be a man that lived here with his son. I was like, oh wow, okay,
Yeah,
just an Easter
yeah.
egg.
Even Ghost of Shima, like there was these four shrines that you had to like answer a riddle, and then you got like PlayStation style theme like ninja outfits. One was a
Hmm.
God of War samurai outfit. The other one was a Shadow the Colossus ghost type of uniform, and there was
Hmm.
a Bloodborne Ronin uniform, and then the last one was like a Horizon Assassin uniform. And I was like, bro, these look
It
amazing.
looked dope. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
So like, so like, yeah. So Sony's been doing that for a while, and then to be honest, bro, people love it because they
Mm,
bring it in a style that makes sense.
yeah,
That makes
yeah.
sense.
I think the really the only thing that I took away from watching some of these clips, especially with the story, I was like, I don't know what they're going to do with the next live action Spider Man. How could they top this? How do you top this? Like how do you top Miles skating on the water with the drone with the lizard chasing after him? How do you top Peter dodging between? Like it's gonna be hard to do anything live action wise. That like no, the game is a movie. Let's go watch the cutscenes on YouTube. That's the next Spider-Man movie. That's what I kept thinking. I was like, my goodness.
The games are Sony. The movies technically now are Disney. Just like how this is the Netflix version of Kingpin. Oh, this is the Disney version of Kingpin.
Mm, fair enough. Fair enough.
Fair.
Okay,
Totally
I'll
different
take that.
person.
I'll take
Different
that. I'll
person.
take that. I'll take
Different
that.
different person.
Okay. To kind of broaden the topic a little bit, um, we've seen some of the pushback online, and it's been some of the narrative for most of the year, which I think, in my opinion, got disproven with this last trailer and last reveal of saying that, oh, this Spider-Man looks too similar to the other ones. Where's the new animations? Where's the new mechanics? Where's the power of the PlayStation 5 being showcased here? And to me, it's obviously online has become and social media has become more and more of a bigger thing as time has gone on. But for you and I, or people who've been gaming as long as you and I have, it's like, is this not what a sequel is supposed to look like? Like when I looked at, for example, Arkham Asylum versus Arkham City. I mean, granted, they've aged very well. Those games still look great, but I didn't look at Arkham City like, oh, Batman's still throwing batarangs. What is this? You call this a brand new game? It's like this is a sequel to an established game. Like what? I wasn't expecting groundbreaking new work from the ground up combat system. What do you feel like makes? What do you feel like constitutes as a modern day game sequel?
Exactly what you just said. Like, because you could tell they take the framework of what they established and they just do add-ons to it. Because like, look how in terms of from like Arkham Asylum to City to even Night, that the one thing that truly evolved in those games was the combat. The
Mm-hmm.
combat evolved with each different one, different. different quick fire stuff, different combos of this, even different types of enemies that you engage, or even different ways of like how to traverse the city and stuff like that. So yes, there's more like open world like elements, but to really say like what is to really want something brand new, you would have to do what God of War did, because God of War 3 and technically God of War 4 are two entirely different games, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Because it
Mm-hmm.
was built from the ground up to be something different,
Yeah.
built from the ground up. So, like, yes, they're technically not sequels to each other. But then look how from God of War 4 to 5, which is Ragnarok, you still see that same framework, but you still love it as a new sequel because, yes, they did more combat enhancements. They did more open world enhancements. They did more
Mm-hmm.
enemy enhancements. So, yes, it's the world that is really evolving. But then you got to really see it for what it is, man. Like, they can't show you everything. You got to go
Yeah.
for see it for ourselves. We still don't even know who we're all fighting for side quests.
Yeah.
We don't even know. We don't even know
That's true.
because
We have
now
no
you
idea
got
what the
two different.
submissions are.
Because now you got two different areas. You got Peter's area and you got Miles's area.
Yeah. And Queens. So it's like you're getting Brooklyn, you're getting Manhattan, and you're getting Queens, which is more of a residential area.
Yeah. So it's kind of like you really got to like allow things to like just flesh out a bit before you, as they say on Shrek, like grab your pitchforks, like really like relax, like and especially like real studio like studios like Insomniac, bro. You could tell like even all I would say this for all of Sony's flagship studios, they all have been stepping up, bro,
Mm-hmm.
because they've realized that from the Naughty Dog PlayStation 3 era, it was just such a like era of blockbusters after blockbusters, bro. Like, and they say like, you know what? We all need to step up.
Yeah.
We all need to step up. Sucker Punch stepped up. Insomniac stepped up. Everybody's stepping up, bro. So they are going to deliver, man. Because one thing I was very certain about when Sony started acquiring different studios, they were strategic as hell.
Mm-hmm. We're gonna use you guys for this guy for that, her for this, and
And then what I really like about it is they're also not afraid to like to go in. The discussion that we had earlier was different IPs.
mm-hmm.
Like to be honest, bro, I thought we was gonna get another Infamous. Like, nope, Ghost of Tsushima, and it was a
Yeah.
beautiful game.
Mm-hmm.
It was a beautiful game. Like even like yeah, we got Last of Us Part Two, but Naughty Dog was like, yeah, bro, we don't want to stay in this realm for too long.
And I like that
We
they're
want to
allowing
do.
their first party companies to kind of have at least two different IPs going at once, right? Or like you said with Naughty Dog, it's like they would switch off between Uncharted and The Last of Us. Now Uncharted has come to the end. They're probably gonna pick up something else after The Last of Us, right? Then like you said about Sucker Punch, you have Infamous, Ghost of Tsushima. So we don't know if we're getting an Infamous 4 or a Ghost of Tsushima 2. And that's dope. Insomniac, we're getting we get a Ratchet and Clank, which was amazing, and another Spider-Man. And now we're getting Wolverine. Like we're getting these big first party companies that are getting to be able to diversify. Where I'm excited to see what Santa Monica does outside of God of War. To be honest with you, I think it'll probably be dope.
Yeah.
So
Even like look at
like
the
you said,
even look at the Killzone developer. Yeah, Killzone Shadowfall was a launch title for the PS4. Look what they came out right after that. Swing Horizon. And there's
mm-hmm.
like, wait, the guys from Killzone made this game? Like, bro, they shook the world, bro. They shook
Yeah,
the world. So like I said, man,
yeah,
I have faith that this is going to deliver. So yeah,
I'm with
I'm
you.
fo- I'm
You know
focused on
me,
my platinum
I'm
trophy.
you know me, I'm a Spider-Man fanboy, so it's hard for me to be like to take the bias out of it. I'm like I don't understand. They're like, oh, you see Spider-Man, he's swinging through Manhattan again. It's like where else is he supposed to swing in New York City? I don't like explain the rationale to me for this. He's a New York-based superhero. Why would he not swing in Manhattan? Like, oh, it's the same old city from last time. Yes, that's where he's from. I'm so confused. Yeah,
What you want
I
him to come to?
think
What you want him to come to Miami?
I guess so. I think it's I get it. Games are more expensive than they've ever been. I was just earlier on the pod talking about why Mortal Kombat to me doesn't quite feel like a $70 purchase, just for small nuances. However, I do think there's certain times where we talked about before we started recording where it's like there has to be a trade off somewhere, right? Where it's like, do you really want this massive open world where the game can't pump out more than 30 frames per second? Do you really want that just so you could be like, oh, this is brand new? Or would you rather a game that's, again, a sequel, better than it was before, probably capable of at least cranking out 60 frames per second, which has been a struggle for most of these current gen games, and it is going to be a beautiful experience. And they've already confirmed that it's longer than the first game. So, it's just like, why, like, let's just experience this blockbuster that's upon us. Even the pod that you weren't able to make it to, I was like, if I'm Microsoft, if I'm Phil Spencer, I'm popping champagne in the office for how Starfield did. Yeah, sure, it's not perfect. Yeah, it's Bethesda, there's bugs and stuff, but like it was a success. People who are playing that game have really enjoyed that game. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a game that due to the modern development of games, a lot of these bigger issues will be patched. Jedi Survivor is fully playable for the first time in months. Right? People can get into Jedi Survivor and really play the game. I think my game only had like one bug crashing in the entire run through. So it's just like these games here, it's like we're gonna get a quality experience, especially if the love, passion, and labor is there out the gate. And I think Spider-Man 2, to me, just continues to show like, yeah, this is just gonna be another jaw-dropping wow moment, emotional moment. So I'm looking forward to it. I think this game is gonna be incredible. And to me, that pretty much wraps up our video game side of topics for this week. Before we close out, of course, we are a video game and anime podcast. So, Tim, you've been contributing to the group chat all week and then some. I see you change your tune a little bit about actually watching the One Piece live action after you and Jory swore like, I'm not interested. Keep it. It's blasphemy to the source material. Don't even try. So I gotta ask, man. I gotta hold you responsible on the pod. Now that you've watched it, I don't know if you've finished it, but now that you've watched it, what are your thoughts? What do you think?
As Thanos told Nebula, perhaps I judged you poorly. It was campy. It was campy, but it was the right kind of campy. Because like when I first heard Luffy talk, I'm like, yeah, this dude is insane. He's insane. Like even this emo-ish Zoro, I was like, wow, this makes sense. Like the way he talks, the way how he addresses issues, like, but you could tell he's also growing himself as the like. Cause I remember there was one part where like you're his first mate, and I was like, wow, he was never really asked that in the show. Like, yes, his character developed as as they went from one pirate battle to the next, but like it wasn't until Alabasta where you start to see Zoro's real mindset as a first mate. Because no, actually no, the first time was like when he lost the Mihawk. It's like
Yeah.
because that really changed his sense of purpose. It's like wow, like I can never lose a battle like this ever again. And then when you really realize, like yes, bro, like ever since then, Zoro has not lost a battle. Like even when he fought Hody, he technically beat Hody.
Yeah.
Hody just flooded the chamber. He was like, but technically he didn't lose. It was a technicality, but technically
I
he didn't
think,
lose.
yeah, I was like, I think it is a technicality because it's like, even for example, they all technically lose against Oars, right? When they fight Oars Jr. But it's like, when I saw it in the live action, I was like, I wonder if he meant in terms of swordsman fights. Because you're right,
Yeah.
in that aspect, he hasn't lost. He has not lost. Anyone with a blade, this man has chopped down. Yeah.
Nami's characters, perfect. Very, very perfect. Like even when you got to see, I was like, bro, I forgot Nojiko was black. I was like, wow, like there's a lot of like attention to detail here. Like even
It's left a
Usopp's,
little bit more ambiguously in the anime,
yeah,
but yeah.
yeah, like even Usopp's character, I was like, you know what, I'm really feeling this because I've seen him as an actor before, and that's always his role. Like he's a person trying to find himself, like really define his identity and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. So like even in terms of Usopp, like yes, Usopp sometimes feel like the oddball. Like you got this master swordsman, you got this Looney Tune, not no longer rubber. You got this Looney Tune ancient Zoan guy. You got this highly skilled chef who could knock your head off with a kick, and you got
Mm-hmm.
this sly-ish navigator, cat burglar, cat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
expert thief.
So yeah, so like I mean, so like yes, he felt like the oddball, and then
Mm-hmm.
his biggest and one of his biggest things is his mouth. That's what he uses to distract you, to the point he is able to find a way to defeat you in some form of a fashion. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how this develops. Like I was a bit disappointed of how they handled the Don Krieg fight because I was like, oh, so
Yeah,
Mihawk just kills him already.
off screen at that.
So it was. I did like the family dynamics between him and Garp, because
Mm-hmm.
when you really look at it, like especially when Garp was talking to Zeph, it's like yes, Garp feels like a failure because when you really look at it, like what is my legacy? My son became a revolutionary. Well, he's not a pirate, but he became a revolutionary. He's against the world government, and then my
Mm-hmm.
grandson just kind of went full ham and went became the very thing that I fight against.
Yep.
And then my
And
best
then
friend,
your
I
adopted son is
adopted his.
also.
It's like so like you could tell like he's very like he's in a very tense state because even when you go to the anime, you find out that he technically the reason why Sengoku had him so close because he was going to save Ace the
Mm-hmm.
last second,
Mm-hmm.
and then you would because you was willing to throw away your whole career, your title, your legacy to honor the agreement that you made to your friend. And to be honest, he might have been your best friend
Yeah.
because the way how he tenses up when you talk about Roger, that probably was his best friend.
I mean,
Like
they
this is
established in the manga that they teamed up at one point. They had a like a peace treaty to fight against rocks. So
yeah,
there's a mutual respect there at the very least for each other.
yeah. So like I mean, I did like the depths of certain story aspects of it. Like I said, it was campy. The racism topic of like the fishmen, I that really hit home, man.
Mm-hmm.
And I am so glad that they kept that aspect so strong, because especially since now Arlong's true story, especially from the Fishman arc, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Arlong is like Kazuya to me, bro. Ain't no slander over here. Yeah, he's still a dirtbag in certain
No,
aspects.
the way he treated
Yeah, he's
Nami,
a
he
yeah, yeah,
disliked
yeah, yeah. No,
it.
he's a dirtbag still on certain aspects. But I did like when he was talking with Nizumi, like when he looked up, he's like, "What did you just call me?" And it's like, and it really, and then when you know his backstory at the Fishman Island, what happened with Jinbei, and how he felt like Jinbei sold out, and even in the fact of like his influence on the younger generation of like Hody
Mm-hmm.
Jones, and it's like once you know all that stuff, this entire dialogue just hits different. It
Mm-hmm.
just hits differently, bro. I was disappointed with the Captain Kuro fight. I was there. That was very disappointing.
Boy,
Like that felt like pinnacle COVID budget.
my goodness, it was so like that was one of the things that I talked about with Jory again on that pod. Is like I felt like the fight quality was all over the place. Where you would have certain fights, like again, I thought Zoro versus Mihawk was fine. I thought it was good actually.
Hmm.
Sanji versus the karate Kurogi, whatever his name is, at the end, that was cool too. I thought it was good. But then it's like you have the Kuro fight that was just wonky. I don't know if, how you felt about the first time Luffy fights Arlong. That was just so off looking to me, where Luffy's kind of like squaring up and like shifting his weight. It's like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing
Well,
right now?
maybe the anime budget, the animation budget will be better because look, we only had one sea beast in this entire thing. I was like, so there's no Momo at Arlong Park.
Nope.
Arlong Park
Or
is just
Hachi.
at first. For like for example, I was like, why is Arlong Park this inland pool area? They were next to the sea.
Yeah.
Like like they're the fish men, so why would they want to have like quicker access to the sea? Like, yeah, I get it, set design, cool, but like the Barati set design was very dope. But then I was like, but when I saw the set design, I was like, yeah, Yeah, that probably would have been too much of a budget for the Dawn Creek
Mm-hmm.
fight to be here. Because first off, when Mihawk shows up, slashes up the last ship, when when Dawn Creek was nuking the place and all that other stuff, like yeah, I was
Too
like,
much, a
yeah,
little
that
bit too
probably
much CGI
it,
for a
yeah,
show. Yeah.
it would have been too much. It would have been
Yeah.
too much. So I got certain parts like yeah, like cause that's what you have to really understand when you convert from animation to live animation. Um, I do feel like the cutoff point was a very decentish. Like, yeah,
Yeah. It
they
was
fought
fine.
they fought the first five major bads. I love what they did with Alvida and Buggy, especially
Mm-hmm.
Buggy. And I love how they pushed like when you watch the uncut version of the anime, they say those same words the S word, F word, and middle fingers. And so I did like how the
Mm.
fact they introduced that. Cause Buggy was like, "Yeah, I'm out of here." I am out of here. So it added a little bit more depth, and it was good to really see the beginning of One Piece in a different way. Because I was like, some of these henchmen, I was like, who's that again?
Right. 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 Right.
Like,
Right. Right.
I did kind of miss like they didn't have Django for the. I felt like the Kiro fight was just the most watered down version, bro. It was
Which
just the
what
most.
the thing that didn't make sense to me is like, okay, I understand, like you said, budget. I'm sure budget played a part in the whole Kuro fight, but it's like, okay, so you're not gonna have Kuro's entire henchmen show up. That's fine, whatever, that's fine.
They
But
was only missing
you
one.
go. I
They was
know,
only
right? So like,
missing.
you don't have Django in, but you do all this effort to have Sam and Butchie in there, and they still fight cat like, and they're fighting all over the house. I'm like, so you still did this part. Why not put Django? He, other than his eyes, he's the most regular looking character out of the whole crew. He's just a Michael Jackson impersonator with a hypnotist thing and a chakram. Like, what about this was hard about putting him in the show? That was kind of weird. The
Well,
the Captain
apparently.
Curl segment of it was like one of the weirdest. I'm like, why did you make so many changes to this?
The one thing I did like
Sorry, you gonna
was
say?
the one thing I did like was Zoro's pirate knowledge. He's like, "Yo, you look familiar." No, 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 sir.
Hmm.
Like we've never met. Like, no, you look familiar. Like, of course, a pirate hunter scanning out bounties. He probably like Naruto. He probably has a bingo book. He's like,
Mm-hmm.
no, I know you, no, bro. I know you from somewhere, and I'm gonna figure it out. But I'm gonna drink your liquor first.
Yeah.
So
How did
like,
you feel about the whole like Garp following Luffy throughout the first season?
it was interesting because I was like, when
Mm.
did God come again? Because that's what I was really trying
Way
like.
later.
I was like, when did, but it kind of made sense because when you really look at the development of Kobe, like even Belt, Ax Morgan's son, I was like the douche, and
Oh,
that's how
oh,
that's what I
yeah.
remember him as. I was like, why is he here? But then he was a fun actor. He kind of gives me like a Egon type of vibe,
Yes, one
like
thousand
like
percent,
like
one
he's just
thousand
the
percent, bro.
he's just the douche that's always there. But like,
Clearly pulled
but
from Game of
then
Thrones for inspiration for his character.
but then when you look at like what his dream is like, oh, Rowan knows Zoro is not the best person with a sword. I was like, well, bro, that's not gonna age well when you reach Rogue Town and you
Hmm.
meet Smoker and his lieutenant.
Yeah,
So they might need to retcon that very quickly. So it's like that's not gonna really work out too
unless his
well.
lieutenant's not in the show, because that is something that
I
it wouldn't make
I
sense for her
would
to not be. It wouldn't make sense because they went through all the effort of casting
his
Kulina, who was
backstory.
his, yeah, and she
Yeah,
looks just like his best friend, so it wouldn't make sense to not have her. But
yeah.
look at how the show played out. There was a lot of characters where it's like, where is this person? Why are they not here? Like even what's his name? The two sword mercenaries that look up to Zoro that they meet in the Arlong arc,
Oh wow,
Yasuku and Johnny.
yeah.
They weren't nowhere to be found. Why not put them in the show?
I
They,
forgot
they,
all about that, bro.
that's what I'm
Well, well,
saying.
the only purpose that they served was because you remember it's half the crew left to go after Nami first,
Hmm.
and then while the rest of them finish mopping up. But then technically, since they all left at the same time, you didn't really necessarily need that. I did like the aspect of like watching over Zoro like as he healed and stuff like that. That was very cool to me.
Hmm.
Even like the interactions between like Sanji and Zeph, like, because even I even laughed to myself today. It's like, oh yeah, oregano is for savages. Like, so like Sanji, no, Sanji's character was very, very well put together.
Easily the
Even the set
easily the
design of
best character.
The
Hmm.
Barati inside, like, bro, this is a
Easily the
quality
best
design.
design character out the show so far in terms of Straw
Even e-
Hats.
Even have like, the person who seats you being a fishman. Like, I
Hmm.
was like, wow, this makes so much sense why Arlong hated this.
Yeah,
He was like this makes so much sense.
yeah.
So yeah,
I I told Jory, and I still stand by this. I still don't think that this first season did enough to warrant. Like if this show never happened, I would be fine. But I say that as respectfully as possible. Like I think what they did was fine. I think it has the potential to be really good. There's a couple of changes I'm like I'm not quite on board with, and I'm really curious to see how they make it work in season two. But I didn't think it was that bad. I really didn't think it was that
yeah,
bad. There was a lot of things that I liked, a lot of things that I thought were fine. It's just I think season two is gonna have to be a lot stronger than season one for sure. Because the Kuro
yeah.
fight was ugh. The fact that you go through all this trouble of introducing Kabaji and Zoro takes him out in one punch. It's like okay. um, even the whole thing with Nami crying, they did not get that scene right, bro. I'm sorry. That was a
Yeah,
flop. That was a flop.
yeah, yeah. You had to do multiple takes for that one, bro, because that was
Yeah.
just.
That
You could tell they was trying, like, yeah, because I get it, bro. Not everything could be like how impactful The Last of Us was.
hmm
Like, even when they were all sitting down behind him, like the same way as the anime, like, yeah, this is kind of corny, bro. Because
Yeah.
Usopp was like,
But it's
but
but
then,
it's all about the
yeah,
framing though, bro. It's all about the
yeah,
framing. It's all about how you sell it. Because if you look at how it happens in the anime, yes, Arlong tricks her out of her money. So imagine he's taking her money back that she was looking to free the village. Her sister gets shot in that scene by the Marines. So her money gets stolen. Her adopted sister gets shot. The villagers are looking to storm Arlong Park as like a suicide run to do something against him. And then Nami confronts Arlong, and he's like, when did I break my promise?" And that's when she loses it, and that's the emotion of like, she's yelling at Luffy. She was just like, "I told you to go away. You didn't go away," and he was like, "Yeah, I didn't." And then she breaks down, and none of that is in the live action. They skip the sister doesn't get shot. The villagers don't do anything. It's just Luffy helped me, and then like you said, it makes it even cornier. Of like this, this is supposed to be a moment. You know what I'm saying? It's supposed to be
bro,
like you're like,
bro,
oh,
bro, bro, that is one of the biggest gifs
in the
on Google,
history of the
bro.
series.
It's
Hmm. The of course I will help me. Of course I will. And like, guys, let's go. Like, which one of you is Arlong? Classic. And they ruined it, yo. I'm like, this is, and the thing that was always so weird to me about that scene is like, this is not even. It's not about it being a cartoon. It doesn't involve him stretching. It's a human moment, and you couldn't get this right. Why? They even managed to get the scene with Sanji and Zeph right, where he's like, "Why would you save me? You don't know who I am. Why would you sacrifice your leg to save me?" And he's like, "Because you and I share the same dream." I was like, "This is perfect. They got it perfectly. This is perfect. They did this just right." Like it was just like I said, the quality would just. Oh man, this is fire! Ooh, Captain Curl. Ooh, Mihawk. Ooh, like it's just like wow.
even even when Buggy mentioned Shanks, like I could feel that anger, like that is like he's like I knew somebody would have like wait, did you get
I
this guy
hated
from
that
a
guy.
ginger with three scars in his eye? He's like yeah, he's like yeah, I know him. And you could tell that's when that chip on his shoulder is like God. And then once you know their true history, it's like, bro, like it's like I'm looking forward to Shanks meeting Buggy, bro. The two actors, because even the
Mm-hmm.
scene when Mihawk pulls up on the beach, it's like Mihawk. We had a party last night. We ain't trying to fight right now. He's like, no, I just came to drop this off, and then everybody's so excited and stuff like that. It's just I'm really looking forward to certain parts now. Now, so, technically where they're going with season two, that's going to be the portrayal of Dragon. Because you remember they're going straight to Rogue Town. So
Mm-hmm.
Smoker, so it's going to be
Tashigi,
Smoker,
the alliance of
skinny
yeah.
Alvida. So I'm looking forward to that. And then, of course, like, as soon as they enter the Grand Line, one of the first people that they find is Chopper. So
I don't know, bro. I don't know.
I do feel like Alabasta will be like season three because
No,
I can't remember like after no because I was
no.
like bro after they found Chopper like where did they go? Because I don't think they went
They went.
straight.
They didn't. They went to Elbaf. Not Elbaf. They went to They went to. They met Dory and Groggy, the giants, and that's where they met more of the numbers, like the girl that does the paint, the Mister Three with the candle, like that island. That was the first, and then they go to
Oh, okay,
Alabasta. They're gonna skip that part.
okay.
I think it's called like the Little Garden arc. They're 1,000% gonna skip past that. They're gonna skim past that. They're gonna
I
skim
mean,
past Chopper's hometown. 1,000%. Nobody likes, bro. Wapol. They're not giving him a whole arc, bro. They're gonna skim right past
nah.
that bad boy.
So no snow, no snow stage, no
No,
sick Nami.
they might do like so. If I had to predict, right, how they're gonna handle that, Nami will still get sick. They'll still go to see a doctor because obviously that's Chopper's whole thing. You'll still meet the old lady. They'll still do the bunnies, and then they'll have the conflict with Wapol. It'll be quick. I wouldn't imagine more than 2-3 episodes and get moved right along.
No. Yeah, like I definitely feel like yeah, 2 to 3 episodes, but you could definitely tell the season two budget has to be better because now we're starting to enter that point where they announced a lot of Zoans and Logias.
Yeah,
So now you really have to take this like animation serious because I was like, bro, if Crocodile looking like sci-fi graphics, bro, when you punch him, I was like,
if he looks anything the way Curl looked using his cat out of the bag thing, oh my goodness.
yeah, because he didn't even do
He
the.
didn't even sway. He just teleports almost. He's there, disappears. He's behind him, teleports again. I'm like,
I
this is
mean,
not
I
looking
did, I
good.
did. I mean, I did like the fact that Mary did not actually survive. I was like, oh yeah, so you actually did kill him in this round, because I was like, because in the anime, I guess that's just anime, like
It's
oh
just
yeah,
anime.
everybody lives,
It's like
like
how Zoro is a master swordsman who managed to spare everyone that he dices up dramatically.
yeah. When I found out the octopus Buddha is alive, I was like, how is he alive?
But he got sliced and diced. And speaking of sliced and diced, Tim, go ahead. You got to defend it now. Live action Zoro cutting down our Fishman brothers with no reservation. He was in Arlong Park going crazy on them Fishman boy. Black man down.
I
Sanji was
mean,
just
so
kicking
I
him.
mean,
Zoro was, and you could tell like it wasn't like there was no superficial wounds, but he was just.
yeah,
Whether it be
I can't
cartoon or
defend it.
live action, Zoro will get himself a black man, boy.
Honestly, bro, I couldn't defend that, bro. I just
Oh
had to
my,
watch. I just had to watch. It's like, oh wow, okay. So this is how it's gonna go.
yeah, yeah. From the first episode, him cutting down a member of the Baroque Works who was black, to the last episode of him cutting down fishmen who represent black people. I was like, talk about canon accuracy.
No. First off, bro, I had to. Because I looked up that Mister person. I was like, bro, in the anime, he's white. So I was like, why? I was like, you know what? Never mind. Never mind.
Yeah, yeah. Let's just say the showrunner seen the memes. That's all I'll say. A wink and nod to the camera, like, no, we think this too, yo. We get it. We see the allegations. It's not looking good for our boy.
So yeah, like when that Mister Two battle show up.
The internet's gonna go. We're gonna go viral again. That's what's gonna happen. You thought our clip had views before? Lord have mercy. Oh man, yeah. Okay, but I just wanted to get your thoughts. That was really the only anime topic I have for this week's episode. I was like, oh, Tim seems to have changed his tune a bit about the way
I
the
gave
the
it
One
a,
Piece live action.
I gave
Give
it
it
a
a what?
solid 7. I gave it a solid 7.
It's like a 6.5 for me. 6.5. I think it's a little bit too inconsistent for me to be like it was a really good first season. The potential is there for sure, but I just feel like
Yeah,
there were just
the
a couple
potential
of
is there.
yeah, there's a couple
But
things I
you,
was
but
like,
you,
this is ugh.
but then you know what I love that I saw the fact like especially on Twitter from like friends, a lot of people was asking the questions like, hey, I watched the live action. Like, should I watch the actual anime? And I just put LOL. They was like, why? Why? I was like, well, because it's over 1,000 episodes, and
Yeah.
they
They
was like,
take
you
some
want me to
liberty.
watch all, and then that just makes their whole demeanor just go away. Because one of my friends was like, what else do I need to watch? And I was like, yeah, but you're not gonna like it. Because I made her a bet, but she didn't know how many episodes it was. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, if you could finish all episodes before the year ends, I would give you $100. She's like, okay, how many episodes? I was like, over 1,000. She's like, Tim, go away.
It flies by faster than you think, bro. One of my friends from college, I got her. I finally convinced her to start it. She is probably, I think she hasn't hit Wano yet, but she started it at the beginning of this year. So that should tell you something. She's like, once you get past a certain point, you just keep going, keep going. I was like, I know, it's just great storytelling.
Bro, Skypiea might take up 2 seasons.
Skypiea should get.
No, that's gonna be the true testament of this show. Skypiea, bro. Skypiea and the Marine Ford attack. That's gonna be the true testament of this whole show, bro. That is, those are gonna be the two arcs that either make or break.
Yeah, because Skypiea is gonna be hard. It's like even if you get it right, it's such a downturn of an arc. Like it's so like there's just nothing of substance that happens in that arc other than the
Bro,
first hints of hockey. That's it.
that took Frieza's 5 minutes Namek to biblical heights, bro. I was like, why are we still fighting this dude? Like, why? Like, like, did nothing of substance happen in like the past 2 episodes that are 30 minutes long?
Nope. Nope.
Nope,
Just him laughing and everyone getting electrocuted over and over again, and a giant snake. Oh yeah, no, they're definitely going. We're gonna get the Cliff Notes version of that arc for sure. We're not getting a CGI giant snake, bro. That's not happening. If we only got one sea monster, sea beast, we're not getting no giant snake in sky in a cloud island. That's mm-mm. Go ahead and skim right past that bad boy. Let's go right into Frankie's arc, please, please. I beg of you.
I'm interested to see how they handle Gecko Moria, like a very Halloween themed type of aspect. I'm very interested to see how they handle
Yeah,
that.
they'll have to change. I mean, they're gonna make some more liberties. They'll have to change some of his size. I'm sure they'll lean more into Chopper being more of like the human side of the human fruit. Just to save on budget. He won't be a little cute mascot walking around CGI 24/7. That's just too expensive.
I
But
mean,
it
bro.
should be cool.
You got Ewoks out there.
True, true, true. Touche. Good point. But all right, we can go ahead and wrap this episode up. Unless you had any last comments.
No, man, I'm good. I'm good, man. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it for what it was. Like it was campy. It was campy, but it was the right type of campy, man. Even
Yeah,
like the Barati scene when they were all drinking together, like Zoro's like, slow
yeah.
down. He's like, but it tastes just like juice. And he's like, yeah, it's
That's
gonna
not a
hit you
good
hard.
thing. Yeah,
That's not a good thing.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
it's kiddish, but as an adult, like you get what's going on. Like even
Mm-hmm.
when Sanji was talking to Nami, they was like, "Oh yes,
Mm-hmm.
madam. Like how are you, madam?" Like it was just funny. It was just really
Yeah,
funny in a
yeah.
very teasing way.
Even at the end where it's like Nami runs up to go hug them and he's like Nami and she's like I don't know you man like I'm gonna go run and hug Usopp and Zoro like who are you that was funny. Like that was very on brand,
Yeah,
on character. Like we don't know each other like
yeah,
that.
because
You're the waiter.
you know, and that's exactly what Zoro was saying. Like, when did this dude join us?
Yeah.
He's like, how long was I knocked out for? Like, but then it
Yeah, that
really
was
makes
funny.
sense. It really makes sense. Like, who are you? Like, wasn't you just serving us drinks?
Yeah. So that there it had its moments and certain things worked. But all right. That pretty much is our episode, guys and ladies and gents and everybody. Thank you guys for watching another episode of the Gamer Podcast. Once again, this is episode 15, brought to you by me and Tony's the Gamer and Mikkel Smith. We'll be back with episode 16 with the return of Super SSS Rank. Thank you guys, as always, for the love, for the comments. Please like, subscribe, and share. Any feedback is appreciated and loved, and we're looking forward to bringing you guys more episodes. So then, take care.